Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cyber Resilience Brief, the SafeBreach podcast, where we bring you, in within 15 minutes, everything that you need to know or didn't need to know about breach and attack simulation, automated penetration testing, and what you need to know about latest attacks. I'm your host, Tova Dvorin, and in today's episode, we are going to bring you the latest about the SharePoint zero-day vulnerability. Today is July 21st, 2025, and we're bringing you updates as they happen. Today with me, I have Adrian Culley, our SafeBreach senior sales engineer and our resident contact in the EU, and in general, an expert on lots of different threat actors in this space. How are you doing today, Adrian?
I'm very well. Happy Monday, Tova. I understand there was some events over the weekend that would be timely for us to update our partners and customers and clients about.
Yeah, absolutely. So, why don't you give us a brief on this SharePoint zero-day vulnerability? Tell us a little bit about what it's about.
So,
Adrian, what can you tell us?
unusually, Microsoft released an advisory on Saturday, the 19th of July, 2 days ago, CVE 2025-53770. Many of you are very familiar with common vulnerabilities and exposures, CVEs, but unusually not so much highlighted. There's another MITRE framework, which is the Common Weakness Framework, CWE. Underneath this CVE, which is unpatchable, hence its severity and critical rating of 9.8 globally, 53770, is Common Weakness 502. Common weakness is referred to as the deserialization of untrusted data. It's a particular problem for Microsoft SharePoint on-prem. Need to stress it doesn't affect SharePoint in the cloud, but it can't be patched. And very unusually, if you closely read the Microsoft advisory from Saturday, they're actually advising you must presume you've already been breached and you must investigate to prove that you have not been breached by this CVE. So there is a presumption to attack. There are things we can do to, as always, to simulate and repeat and emulate the attack. It does appear to be yet again Chinese state intelligence that's behind this. There are known hostile IP addresses in China that are connected, but just to stress that there is no single patch to fix this. There are a range of activities you can do to simulate and emulate and to tweak your security controls to try and capture this. The upshot of all of this and why it's so critical is if it's been successfully exploited in your data estate, it both allows the execution of remote code execution, and persistence. These are both, as you'll all be aware, very bad things.
First of all, thank you for that context, Adrian. We really appreciate it. We've been seeing an uptick in different threats, different CVEs, and different alerts lately. What makes this one special, and why do we need to be on extra high alert for this?
So it's very interesting. This actually builds upon two earlier CVEs last year. It's referred to as ToolShell. There were some mitigations released for the previous CVEs, but this new ToolShell 53770, it's the speed at which it's happened. The reason for Microsoft's advisory on Saturday is there is already a proof of concept, which is the professional speak for available attack code in the wild. So anybody can get their hands on code which will let them run this ToolShell attack against you, and you can't patch against it. That's pretty urgent. So if you do get a chance, do start with the Microsoft advisory. You should be familiar with CVE's 49704, which is a code injection remote code vulnerability, and 49706, an authentication bypass vulnerability earlier this year. Unfortunately, ToolShell builds on all of this. There are many people out there still haven't addressed either of the earlier advisories. It's very, very nasty. It affects SharePoint Server 2016, 2019, and SharePoint Subscription Edition. It doesn't affect Microsoft 365 SharePoint Online, but it's still bad enough. We do have indicators of compromise. We do have a range of mitigation advice. We do have a scenario that we're releasing in the next hour or two, which should be available, will be available. And there's a range of advice from Microsoft, including changing your ASP.NET machine keys. You must assume compromise. This is very bad.
Okay, thank you for that distinction, Adrian. Just to make clear, if we haven't already made it clear, SafeBreach customers, you will be protected. Just take a look in the validate side of the platform for the new attack scenario.
You'll also notice in there's a brand new super scenario for Iranian-based attacks. But just to stress, Microsoft is advising that you assume compromise and conduct forensics. This is almost the highest level of alert that there would be. It's very unusual for them to be so specific and exacting as to what they want you to do. There is an out-of-band emergency security update for SharePoint Server 2019 and SharePoint Subscription Edition, and Microsoft is recommending that you apply these patches straight away. Unfortunately for SharePoint Server 2016, there isn't yet anything to be done. So you must be looking to your breach and attack simulation and your security controls to try and either discover that you've unfortunately already been breached by this, or fingers crossed you haven't. But as you know, one of my favourite sayings, hope is not a strategy. But if you can't find evidence of this, we want to target harden and ensure that we've increased our resilience and we don't become victims of this very nasty attack.
Thank you for perspective on this, Adrian. Coming up, we'll be joined by our VP Security Research, Tomer Bar, for his perspective. Hi, Tomer. Thank you so much for joining us today. What can you tell us about this attack?
Hi, Tova. Happy to be here and speak about a very high value attack against targets that is going on in the last week and actually on this moment as well. It's a remote code execution vulnerability against SharePoint servers. The attack starts by sending a specific HTTP post request to the tool pane ASPX page. And once the vulnerability is exploited successfully, the attacker then install a backdoor, a web shell on the web server, and it's like the initial access to the target organization. It's also an ASPX page with a specific name. At SafeBreach, we have an SLA of 24 hours for emerging threats, and this is definitely emerging threat. So we already published our first aid coverage for our customers to find out which server were attacked when were compromised by two different things. One is an attack that tries to connect and download this ASPX page. Once the attacker can do that, it can run any command on the machine remotely on the web server. And the other attack tries all the relevant security controls if they can detect this web shell once it's written to disk or once it's uploaded to the web server. In addition, I recommend our customers, there are three specific IPs published in a CISA.gov site that the known attackers are using since July 18. So any record of these IPs is very suspicious, and you should increase your simulations and testing if this appears in your log. But even if it doesn't mean you are totally safe. And I will also recommend to install the patch that Microsoft released as soon as possible. It's a CVE-2025-53770. And use AMSI as well. It can also detect some part of the attack.
Okay, thank you for that, Tomer. We very much appreciate it. Off mic, you and I were discussing that this is an especially important attack for our customers. Just out of curiosity, any specific reason why there have been an uptick in attacks recently? What makes this one special?
This one is very special because the attack was a zero-day attack in the wild. It means that there were actual adversary attacks on real production servers without those servers' ability to protect themselves because there was no patch at the time of the attack. So Microsoft just released the patch after the attack was discovered. So in the wild, attacks are the most dangerous one and the ones that you would like to simulate as soon as possible.
Okay, thank you for that perspective, Tomer. Tomer, Adrian, anything else you'd like to add before we sign off for today?
Thank you for that excellent coverage, Tomer. And again, this couldn't be more serious, and that's the words of the US government, not ours.
Thank you both very much for being here. And if you're listening to us and you're a SafeBreach customer, stay safe with SafeBreach. And if not, come visit us at www.safebreach.com to find out more about how you can remain protected against upcoming attacks. Thanks, everybody. The Cyber Resilience Brief is a SafeBreach podcast. It's produced by Tova Dvorin and executive produced by Adrian Culley. Sound design provided by Adobe Podcasts. Distribution provided by Podbean, and extra support and love from the SafeBreach team. For more information on how adversarial exposure validation through SafeBreach can protect you and your business, no matter where you reside or what industry you're in, please visit us at www.safebreach.com.